Streaming live on Facebook. On mine it says that we are.
Yep. All right, welcome to Success Paradigms. This is Emilio Garcia, and with me as always is Andrew Barker.
Pinche gringo.
Episode 19, if I got the count correct.
Yeah.
I always mess it up. But with us we have Dave Millheiser. Is that, I probably butchered that. Millheiser.
You got it. Millheuser.
There we go. Not that bad.
Not at all.
Oh,
Very cool. So today we're just going to chat a bit with Dave. To be honest, I was looking at his resume and I was like, holy crap, this guy's fun. So we're going to have a tough time, as we were talking about. We're going to have a tough time limiting this to 40, 45 minutes. So I think it's going to be another one of those we do in 2 or 3 parts, Andrew.
yeah, that would be good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Dave, tell us a little bit about you, your upbringing. Were you born in Texas? Probably not, like most of us, but.
Right. No, I was born in New York, actually out on Long Island. So that made it difficult coming to Texas, obviously. And I'm still waiting to be accepted.
Hey, you got company.
Yeah,
This guy right
Yeah.
here is the same way.
exactly.
He tried to pull that on us in Mexico, and we booted him out.
He tried New York, he tried Mexico,
Yeah, I'm running out of places.
we're next.
But Texas nowadays accepts anyone, so you might be good.
I went to school in Boston. I went to Northeastern University, which is was a co-op school at that time on the quarter system, and it was just perfect for me because you get 2 years of experience in your field, and you get your degree in 5 years essentially. And I was working for the Nestle company, which was headquartered up in White Plains, New York, and that was a co-op job. I was doing marketing research, and after graduation, they brought me on as an assistant product manager. And what was cool was that the other assistant product managers all had their MBAs from Ivy League schools. So I've got to say, anyone who's looking at co-op for the universities or colleges that have it, it's worthwhile. So that got me a good footing starting in what turned out to be a long career of marketing. And that's really pretty much where I end up as I change industries. It's really the strategic marketing and communications that I have been enjoying. So Nestle, then I was recruited to a Citibank in New York and did some segmentation work for them. And for anyone who's been traveling around, particularly I know in South America, it's big. Citigold is one of their, there you go, tiers for their best clients. And that was something we developed in New York and then spread out. So that was a lot of fun. From there, where we go, I was recruited to come to Texas with Dr. Pepper. Now my wife, who I met in New York, I guess, she thought all right, she's in New York, she loves it. That was always a goal of hers. And I bring her back to Texas. So, the nice thing is we started a family, had 2 kids. They're Texans. I'm questionable, as I said. And it's been great. So while at Dr. Pepper, and just before that, we lived in Manhattan. And we loved totally when I was with Citibank. And we were sort of searching for that all throughout, our life together. When we got to Texas, we went to far north Dallas, actually Andrew's neighborhood, and kids were in school there until, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Dr. Pepper was great. Again, it was using classical packaged goods skills. And it was a time of the cola wars, Coke versus Pepsi taste test. You guys probably aren't old enough to remember that.
Oh, I remember it.
Okay, thanks.
I remember it.
But what was what was cool is we expanded our market share dramatically because it's in packaged goods, it's a shelf space war, and so Coke and Pepsi were discounting so much. We came along and we were equally bottled by half Coke bottlers and half Pepsi bottlers. So to them, they could put us out at full cost, and we were their margin. We bring in the profit to them while they're giving away their core brands. So we got a lot of volume out of that, and that was pretty neat.
Let me ask you a question, if
Yeah.
I can jump in, because this came up at lunch yesterday and it's important. The Texans are going to get really annoyed with my question. But hey, right, I'm not accepted yet
There's no
anyway.
Texans in this call. So.
Yeah.
That's right.
So what flavors Dr. Pepper? Because it's not vanilla. It's not, to me, it has a hint of cinnamon.
It might. I've always thought it had a raspberry base.
I don't taste raspberry.
No, that's as close as I could get.
I got a few friends that work at Dr. Pepper, and it was funny because one of them said to me one time, because we came to his house and you know how strict they are, and he couldn't have any Coke products and whatnot.
Yeah.
So he's like, just have a Dr. Pepper. I'm like, I don't really like it. He's like, dude, if you have it cold enough, it's not that bad. Okay, that's not a description I want. Cold enough, it's not that bad.
It took me a while to get used to it, and I wasn't always kosher with it, but I always thought it was great. It was great with taste-numbing barbecue or Mexican food. If there was steam coming out, it tastes really good. So
I mean, I've liked it since my New York days. My son likes it, so we were drinking it yesterday with some people. It's from Mexico. It's their first time here in the U.S. And they're like, well, what flavor is it? And we were just all looking around the table like, well, it's not a cola.
No one
let's all taste it and try. So some people are like, well, sort of vanilla. And I said sort of cinnamon. But hey, whatever it is, what the great thing about it is unique, right?
Well, we actually even had to go to court to be called an uncola or not being a cola, because the Coke system and the Pepsi system, in their franchise licenses, they could have no other cola drink. So we want to make sure, we weren't confused with anything, and that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that was
cool.
That was something real funny. Back in my corporate life, I used to do audits, and one of my clients was Pepsi.
Not Dr. Pepper, sorry.
One of my clients was Pepsi, and I started finding stuff for Dr. Pepper, sharing warehouses and stuff like that. I was like, okay, they're competitors, but not really, because they're sharing. It's a real weird kind of relationship.
Well, does anyone remember? You want to talk about showing your age? RC Cola?
Yeah.
Is that still around?
I think actually.
I believe so.
Dr. Pepper. While I was there, we bought Canada Dry and then 7 Up, and it was Dr. Pepper 7 Up for many years. And at that point, they started. I believe they bought RC Cola.
As far as I know, they have RC Cola.
I'm sorry?
As far as they know, as I know, they own RC Cola.
So I think they were picking up all these niche brands around the company. They've done well. And now it's Keurig Dr. Pepper. So.
Yeah. Who would have imagined the little one ate the big one?
Exactly.
No, it's amazing, again, I think for whether you remember the cola wars or whether your caffeine experience began drinking in Starbucks coffee, either way, I mean, how the caffeinated beverages really have become an industry, right? It didn't, it sounds obvious now, right? But it wasn't. It took a long time because the soda companies, their soda profits were stagnating because soda is not perceived to be as healthy as, it's perceived to be more unhealthy than coffee, right? So it's amazing how all of this evolved because you couldn't have imagined it back in the day.
No, and who could have imagined the size of the bottled water segment? Nestle had Deer Park water, and it was this little building in the Bronx, and I was thinking, I hope they're not getting their water out of the river there. But now it's a zillion-dollar business, and
Well,
every,
Dave,
you know,
for the people from the Northeast or New York in the audience, no one believes this, but there's a huge reservoir in the Bronx
mhm,
where part of the water for the New York City water system is actually,
right.
gathered. It's effectively, I think, from part of it's rainwater. It's part of the system, water system, but it's not upstate. It's in the Bronx, and at least back when I was living there, it was open to the air.
Well,
Um,
people love New York water. It may not, it may be a little translucent, but it tastes great. People like it. So whatever was getting in the mix in the Bronx was working.
Hey, if anything, it improves your immune system. It's like eating
yeah,
tacos in
probably.
Mexico. Just like eating in Mexico in the street. There you go.
That's perfect.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit more. I know you were in New York and whatnot, and you mentioned Latin America. You worked for a while in Chile, wasn't it?
Right, right. I had been working for Lone Star Gas, Lone Star Gas, which is now Atmos Energy.
Okay.
And at that time, the market was opening up to competition, and today you can choose your own electric company and all that. Well, this was the beginning of that on the gas side. And we felt that our margins, I was director of marketing there, and we were feeling that our margins were going to be squeezed, at which they ended up being as competition came in. We no longer had these protected markets on the gas side. So we had someone, a business development guy, going around the world, really saying, "What's up? What's out there?" And we found this deal in Santiago, Chile, and it was just really, it was cool. We were building with two other partners, a Canadian company and a native Chilean company, combined cycle power plant in um, in uh, in outside of Santiago, but we were getting the gas from the Neuquén Basin across the Andes in Argentina and building a
wow,
pipeline through the Andes. And then also,
that's fascinating.
yeah, no, it was crazy.
So
They,
did they go over the mountains or?
there was a pass that they had put
Ah, okay.
years ago because somebody had this vision, and they had a city gas system that went around the city for home use, residential and industrial use. It was god awful, whatever it was, and it was polluting and gross and horrible. And they had, think of them like a Los Angeles, a basin that's all locked in by the two sets of mountains
Yeah, like Mexico City is the same,
in Mexico
similar.
City.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with the environmental issues, we went in and repiped the city, and it was almost overnight that the crud was out of the sky. I lived up in the foothills of the Andes, and on the way to work, going down, you could see that you were entering a brown cloud, before it got cleaned up, and it was neat. But that was wonderful. That was a great experience. Great people, um, a great business ethic, and great cocktail parties. Really,
Don't
really
forget that.
good. That's right.
Very cool. Did you work in other places throughout Latin America or mostly Chile?
It was just Chile, but every once in a while, the energy department would dress me up and take me somewhere to talk about, what we were doing in Chile, or natural gas vehicles, or different things we can do. And so I got to see a little bit more. I went to Uruguay, and then we visited his family some other places, but it was still sort of rough going. We weren't allowed to go to Colombia. Um, Venezuela hadn't blown up yet. This is when was this?
Wow.
Pinochet had been, I think, the first democratic
Government after him.
presidency after 17 years
Yeah.
of dictatorship. So they were still just coming um, out of that dictatorship. And of course, with someone from the United States comes in, I had a good friend who was part of the team. He was Chilean. And one day I think we were running together or walking some mountain. And he said, "So you got to tell me, are you CIA?" And I thought, wow, it's probably on everybody's mind. And I was so naive, I didn't even think about that. And so they were a little gun shy, for a while, but we worked beautifully together. And we pretty much brought in the technical side of it. So I was bringing people back and forth. And then I was also involved with the marketing. And so the company is Metrogas. There's also a Metrogas in Argentina, in Buenos Aires area, but not related. Nobody cares, "Oh, that's a good name. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
use it."
Yeah.
And
It's funny
they've
that you
been very
mentioned
successful.
that CIA thing, because part of my travels, I used to go to Brazil a
I'm in a
lot.
meeting.
And
I don't know when I'm in a meeting.
Andrew, can you mute yourself? There you go. So I was going down to Brazil a lot, and the general manager for the company down in Brazil, the wife had a cigar bar, which we enjoyed quite a bit. But one of the guys there was a U.S. guy that did marketing and stuff, and it was sort of unknown that he was actually a CIA agent. He didn't ever come out clean,
Sure.
but everyone's like, yeah, he works for CIA. He's sort of a modern day spy, if you will. I was like, oh, cool.
Well, we hung around a lot. Oh, so I was commuting for a year before the family came down, and got really close. Really, when the family came down, with a lot of people in the North American community, and hung around with a lot of embassy folks, and that was always a question on our mind. Some people have this nebulous title or whatever,
Right.
nicest
Isn't
people in
that
the
you
world, but
actually
God knows.
do? Huh?
Yeah, truly, somebody's got to do it, right?
Hey, you get a big, nice expense account and go and mingle. Basically,
That's
that's
right.
what you
Get to know people.
do.
Yeah,
Meet a lot of people and hang out with a lot of people and be likable.
that's right.
And that was that guy, and you're gonna be, but his name was Dave as well. But he was a real nice guy, easygoing and everything. And then the owner of the cigar bar said, "Yeah, everyone knows kind of that that's what he does." I'm like, oh,
Well, during all the disruption and the disappearances, I guess in the 80s, late 80s, whenever it was, people would sort of, I'd be going around town with different people, and they'd point to a building and say, that was one of the buildings. And where the desaparecidos, that disappeared, went for questioning and never came out. Or the bank of this river where people were sort of built into the cement, just horrible things. And to think, what the US role in all this was pretty horrible.
oh. And it was a bad time. I mean, at least when I started going down there, I still remember my first trip to Colombia. We actually had to cancel because there was, at the hotel that we were going to stay, it wasn't a car bomb, it was a bicycle bomb. I'm like, holy crap, you don't even have to have a car?
Yeah.
Not going. And we ended up postponing, I think, for about a year that time around. And then it started getting a lot easier. And Colombia is a great place. I mean, Medellin is beautiful.
That's what I understand. And at that time, there were too many kidnappings and things going on. So our company and the embassies and, said, just cool your jets, there'll be another time to go. And
Yeah.
I'd really
My
like
company was like, yeah, we're Americans, but you're a Mexican. You can get along with them. No one will pay attention. Go.
that's horrible.
Yeah, very cool. So tell us a little bit about the transition, because I saw in your resume you kind of did it similar to me, where you were still at corporate, but you started your business on the side. And I don't know if you got to the same place where I did, where I was like, okay, corporate America, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I just went my own way. But it looks like you did something similar. Again, not sure what the face off was, but you were both in corporate and with real estate for almost a decade, right?
Yeah. The my wife was in real estate
Okay.
when we came back from Chile, and I always had an eye on that, and I would sort of help her on the weekends, you know. And at one point, so I was working for TXU, which is a big energy company here in Dallas, and at that time, the electric industry was about to go through just, opening up and deregulation or
Not in
re-regulation.
my area.
Okay. And at that point, they were being high flyers like Enron. So they had, you know, these trading operations in Europe, and they bought Australia, and they've got London, and we went over there and worked, you know, with all these folks. So that was fun. But they blew up just when Enron was blowing up. For anyone who remembers all that horrible stuff. So just before that, my wife said, "Why don't you get your license? You know, and you know you have it, you know, and you can help or whatever." And well, thank God I did, because they had a massive layoff. You know, all the operations, our trading operations were gutted. The marketing, even though we'd been so successful moving into other parts of the country, Houston and everything.
So they were Dallas based, or they
Yeah.
are Dallas based?
They are Dallas.
Okay.
Yep. It was, if you go on Commerce Street, there is a new, what is it? I can't remember. Somebody just moved into their headquarters, their 1930s gorgeous headquarters on Commerce Street, just down from where AT&T is having their new Discovery Center, where with all their towers and their global headquarters. And yeah, so they'd been here forever, and it was Texas Utilities. They had all kinds of Dallas Power and Light way back when.
So am I correct in understanding they were effectively replicating the Enron model?
In pieces of it. At that time, it was 2002, and if you weren't acting like a .com, then you weren't going anywhere.
Oh, I remember it well, yeah.
So everybody was doing that stuff and working in the ether, and unfortunately, reality, you know, rained on the parade, and so TXU pulled back from all their high flying operations and still had to do some deep cuts. So I took that opportunity to go my separate way. And then I worked for a couple of other companies along the way. Every now and then corporate America beckoned, and you know, a salary was always nicer than, uh-oh, who's going to be the next client? You know,
Right.
The phone's not ringing right now. So I had that for a while, but now, real estate full time, and I really, really enjoy it.
So dialing back a little bit, since you've been in a couple of different energy companies, and no one has even been able to explain, why do we still have co-ops in parts of Dallas? Like, when I moved over here, it's like, you're in the co-op, you can't choose. I'm like, wait, this is free market. What the heck do you mean you can't choose?
Yeah, I'm not even aware of this, so this is interesting.
Yeah,
Andrew, so just so you understand, Andrew, I get my electricity from CoServe and gas, and
You have no say in it.
do whatever you want. You're not moving from that company. That's the one provider for this whole area.
That is odd.
I know they're
That
It was
sounds more like California than Texas.
pretty much north of Collin County, and there may have been some in Collin County.
Yeah, I'm Collin County.
Okay, well, the municipalities had to opt in to the deregulation and to unbundle the
Services,
right,
right?
the delivery services from the fuel purchase, and the areas that served weren't even open for discussion.
Right.
So they remained as is. Garland Power, Garland stayed the same, but much of the rest of the state did change. But yeah, they were grandfathered in. They didn't have to, you know,
I
change.
still wish they'd change it. I mean,
Yeah,
So
I don't
I
got a
mean,
problem with the service, but I
right.
mean, I back in the day, when I had just moved here 12 years ago, someone offered and said, "Hey, let's look at your electric bill. We can get you a better price." I'm like, "Cool." And he started the whole process. Obviously, he was new. I didn't know the co-ops apparently. But when we
Exactly.
put everything through process, they came back and said, "What are you talking about? You're in the co-op." I'm like, "What?" Yep. That's just what
well,
you get.
Texas is fascinating. This is fascinating. Never heard of this. Um, but Texas is just fascinating that it's the only state of the 50. Well, they must be not. Sorry, of the continental. They must not be including Hawaii, but it's the only state of the continental U.S. that has its own electric grid.
Yeah, and they're proud of it. You know, it's
Right.
there may be a point, you know, where they have to share, but that then puts them under federal, or FERC is the, you know, Federal Energy Regulating Committee or something
They
like
got to come up with a better name.
that. I know. Well, okay, they didn't want to be FERC'd. There you go.
Yeah.
So they, you know, stayed Texas strong and Texas proud, and the system works. You know how we've got these blistering summers, and we watch ERCOT, who is uh, big kahuna watching all the big lines going through and making sure that we have capacity. And they've been doing it. They've been doing a great job. And now
Yeah.
with all the wind we're bringing on and changing from coal to natural gas and then distributed power through rooftop cells and all that, it's crazy.
Yeah. Even here in far north Dallas, it's quite a few homes that have had solar since we've been here. What, 4 years? And
Mhm.
5 years in DFW, 4 years here in North Dallas, and some of them have had solar panels for a while and more every day. So it's also interesting when people come to Texas or to Dallas for the first time, or perhaps even to the U.S. for the first time, with Dallas being the first place they're seeing, and they're like, wait a second. They think that's because, you know, they have these images of Texas as cattle and oil, and you see solar panels, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought that was California.
Right. That's
And
right.
it's pretty, it's pretty inspiring how much solar and wind power is being generated here in the state of Texas.
And we've got to do it. You know, we really do. And it's interesting how um, people's tastes had changed. Like at the beginning, it was, oh, wind or so. You know, who cares? You know, it's going to cost me more. Well, now it probably costs you less. It's so efficient, and it does the right thing. But
Yeah. So let's get back a little bit before we run out of time. We're still good, but into the real estate area. So are
Yeah.
you mostly residential, commercial, both, a mix?
it's mostly residential. Although I'm just about to put a property on in the Cedars, south of downtown. Really cool area, and
Wait
so
a second. South of downtown Dallas?
yeah. So south of
So is it
I-30,
near the farmers market, or where is it?
farther south. It's south of I-30, which is the bottom of downtown, and it's sort of the area. There's the Trinity River, 30, the Trinity River, I-45, and then down to the Dart and train tracks below. And that's where, blanking out, the the first apartments on Lamar that used to be the Sears warehouse down there. Um, Fantastic area. And
I had no
Matthew,
idea that was a Sears warehouse. Wow.
yeah, uh, Matthews Southwest worked on that, and they brought in movie theater and restaurants, and um, they just some great places down there. It's still, a lot of it is industrial. Some of it is still not ready for prime time, but it's going to get there. Just as Bishop Arts in Oak Cliff has just been booming. Um, the city has changed their regulation and opened it up so that there's more flexibility for and more room for creativity. So we'll see how it goes. It's the area where my wife's family lived years ago, when all the Main Street merchants lived in the Cedars, and some of those houses still exist. It's really cool. So there's a lot of, with my preservation hat on, also a very cool area for adaptive reuse. You know, to keep the shell. They do it with schools, and now we've got all these lofts and apartments, you know, in old school buildings. And there's all kinds of neat stuff, neat opportunities. But that's a very small part of what I do. Mostly it's helping people buy and lease in typically North and East Dallas, through Lakewood, and then Old East Dallas for historic properties. And from here, I'm talking from Uptown, my condo in Uptown, and I'd have these beautiful, show you the city view instead of having these dumb blinds down, but it's too reflective, so you wouldn't be, it'd be right. too weird. But so from here, and actually from downtown all the way up, you know, to Prosper, Salina, all those places, we help people. And it's all referral at this point, thank goodness. I mean, that's really nice that, you know, people think enough of us to keep sending their friends over. So that's wonderful.
So I got
you helped us when, it's funny, but like Dave and I are both New York City guys, but we only met here in Dallas. So we actually met. Dave was gracious enough to meet with me before we had even moved here, and start explaining the lay of the land, and, you know, which neighborhoods for what, and, you know, how old are your kids and all that, which for some, you know, with so many people invading from New York and California, and the rest of the world, it's nice to be able to speak to someone who knows, you know, who gets it, right? Okay, you know, you're single or you're married, kids, you know, dogs. I mean, the dogs, Dave, remember?
Well, that's the best part. I was pimping for his dogs to get him over the border. It was
like, seriously, because it's like, we're not leaving the beagles in Mexico.
That's right.
Like, that's not happening.
Yeah,
and they're beautiful too.
Yeah. So
so let me ask you a weird question, if you will. My business is also word of mouth, basically, relationship. But I got a question, and I ask it on my industry as well. Those little postcards that say, hey, I'm a realtor, if you're interested in buying or selling, have those ever worked?
I don't think so. But
Okay.
what they do, no, let's say, there's
they might have worked years ago, but like right now I'm like, okay, first of all, and nothing against any realtor, but you can throw a stone and hit a realtor.
That's right.
In Texas, and I don't know the specifics in Dallas, but in Houston, I know there's 45,000 realtors, and there's only 38,000 homes for sale.
Right.
And I gotta imagine Dallas is similar. So when I get something like that in the mail saying, hey, if you're interested in buying or selling, I'm a realtor, I'm like, and they're thick postcards, color, and I'm like, how much money did you spend on this thing?
Where it works is if you've seen that name, it's name recognition over time. Even as you're doing your mail over the trash can, you know, the name will be on both sides of it, so there'll be a flash of recognition as you're throwing these things away. Yeah. And but for clients of people who are sending out the postcards, it's sort of reinforcement that they made the right decision because here's an agent who
Okay. There's
who knows
the
what's going on.
counterintuitive,
And
not so obvious factor.
and those people typically will move in 7 to 10 years. So after right after someone buys a house or sells a house with the agent, they're pretty high unless there was an issue in the transaction, which could be, and they're very high on their agent. And asked, if they'd use them again, absolutely. 80 to 90% say sure. Only 20% do use them again.
And I think what I don't know. It's not that it bothers me, but I'm like, people, you're wasting money. Because I would have thought they did some research before sending them out. The last one I got, and I laughed about it, it was last week, and it said, "Did you buy this house to flip it?" I'm like, no, that would be a bad business because I bought it 13 years ago. And I know there's a database that says when the house was sold or bought. I'm like,
Yeah, they're just
don't
trying to start a
tell me
conversation. I
specifically
mean,
about flipping houses when I've owned it for 13 years.
what I've heard, and not in terms of realtors, but just across the board, because there's so much noise on the web, and both Facebook marketing, Facebook ads, and Google ads have gotten actually pretty expensive enough that it's a numbers game. So if they're not worried about filling up the recycle bins with paper, it's a numbers game. So it's now cost effective again to
But I
go
think
back to
still
snail mail because
more
Facebook and Google are
cost-effective
so expensive.
more cost effective might be to join certain groups and be involved in the groups. You're going to get more word of mouth. By the way, Dave,
Yeah.
and I'll send you, I think we're connected in LinkedIn, not on Facebook, but I got a friend of mine, and you've met him, Andrew, that has a networking group called Industry Spheres. And he's got a networking this Thursday, I believe it is, in Frisco, only for realtors.
I will definitely connect Dave with them. I mean, connect me with them as well for other.
Yeah.
But Emilio, Dave, but we can't let Dave go with asking him at least one more real estate question. So I'll jump in, and when we have you back,
sure,
Emilio can ask you a bunch more. But this whole wave of, I think of it as COVID-driven real estate, residential real estate purchasing, and what I hear is, okay, well, if people saying if I have to work from home, I do need that extra room for a home office, or if both of us are working from home, we really need more space, and you need also for those that have children of whatever age, right? The kids are studying at home, so you end up being,
right.
Your homes have become, because of COVID, it's like miniature data centers. To me, it was a bit surprising, the magnitude of it here in North Texas and in DFW, because it's not a small transaction to sell your house and move into a bigger one, or to buy a second home. And many people keep the one they already have and then move into a second, especially when in a year that, at least in theory, is so high risk, volatile, tumultuous with the virus and elections and a million other things. But nonetheless, I mean, the data is there. It's staggering, and it's good news, right? Because we all own homes and we want the values going up. But what are you seeing that's really driven that? Is that is the media explanation for it to some degree accurate, or are there really other things happening?
I think some of the people that are making that move, that was the push they needed to make a move they were going to do anyway. But also, it was a pain being at home with the kids, or Peggy and I work at home, and luckily the dog likes to sleep, so we're okay. But we're seeing particularly folks in the Park Cities and with cash, okay, let's buy the lake house, or let's buy something in Cabo, so those things are going on. Thank goodness, because I like to sell those too. But we're seeing, I don't know if it's as big as the media is touting, but we are seeing as many people, I guess, in our limited practice going from uh, maybe North Dallas or Lakewood, considering that a densely populated area, and going out to 5 acres out somewhere north or east. But as many people coming back into downtown because, well, hell, now I don't have to work out there. I don't have to go to that office.
Hmm.
I can work at home where there's some maybe cultural things going on if they ever come back. You know, good restaurants and this and that, and people my age. And so I think it's going both ways, quite honestly.
Interesting.
And then it's a rough time to do it because I think in Dallas County, we now have like 2.3 months of inventory. That's nothing. We need to have 4, 5, 6 months just to have a balanced market. Um, so it's become a seller's market. Prices are going up again, and the selection. Uh, we can find stuff, but it's taking longer, and it's not checking every box on the list necessarily. But
Well, it's interesting, and the people continue to come in from other parts again of the country and the world,
big time.
and I know when I talk to people on the construction side of things, um, uh, they have a shortage of labor.
Some of them aren't even
So
quoting prices yet until, they're set to go because uh, same thing to get a crew and to get the lumber and all the fittings and everything.
yeah, for all of us, if anyone who's been listening in or watching in, have you been to Home Depot lately? Because I was just there, and it's like, what? Wait a second, when did the price of lumber, as you mentioned, when did the price of lumber shoot up so much?
No, it's nuts, and hopefully, whether it's going to be the medicine, so we don't get the virus or whatever, or we get into more of a rhythm, that where what we're doing is okay. We'll see, but I hope that things come together. I'd like to go out to a restaurant,
Yeah.
but I'm not doing it. So
Yeah, I think they're starting out bit, but who knows what's gonna.
yeah,
Uh, I don't know. I'm just weary of the winter months and the
yeah.
flu and everything else like that, and the holidays, and I I don't know.
Just be careful.
Yeah, I mean, the best you can do is be careful and take care of your health, because
Right.
that's where you start creating the antibodies to be able to reject it. So,
Exactly.
not a lot more we can do right now.
No.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah,
Dave,
Dave, thanks for joining us.
thank you very
To
much.
everyone listening, Dave is one of the most stand-up guys in Texas. Um, I say that sincerely.
Well, back at
Pardon me,
you.
Emilio. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. You could throw me something like that every now and then. Yeah.
Well, you and I are co-hosts, so it's people think I'm biased. So, and I'm not doing business with Dave in any way, shape,
I don't care. I
or all you
still like to
listeners
hear it.
and viewers.
Anyway, Dave, I'll send you the info on that networking thing. I don't know if you are going attending or not, but
I'll take a look. Sure.
yeah, because he runs now. Normally he has one a month, um, and obviously Andrew runs one as well,
Right.
which we
Yeah.
were talking about just before you
Yeah,
came on.
we restarted last month. We will do one Latin America Happy Hour Professionals Networker this month. Thinking most likely the week before Thanksgiving. Sort of want to give all the election related noise
That's
a chance
probably
to die
next
down.
week, by the way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll
We've
get an invite out, but
got to start looking at the place and.
yeah, I've got a place. I've talked to the management there. They're down.
Oh,
Again,
you
it's
know
just
where we gotta go? Have
where?
you been to Babette's?
No,
Have
where
you
is it?
been to Estilo Gaucho?
Estilo
Gaucho?
Gaucho tampoco.
So Estilo Gaucho is the Brazilian steakhouse in the Stonebriar Mall.
Ah, okay.
The owners just opened up another restaurant called Babette. And I need to talk to him to be a guest in the show, by the way.
Where is
But
that
it's
one?
more international cuisine, and he built it. I was there the other day, and he told me the way I built it is like you're coming into my apartment, and you want
Oh,
to
nice.
spend some
Where
time.
is it? Where is it?
It's right on Dallas Tollway and 121. You know that new compound where Blue Mesa and the boardwalk is? It's right next to that. It's right there. And
Yeah.
his
Well,
whole
I'll
idea, and I
coordinate with
didn't
you.
know
If
that.
not for November, then for January, we
Yeah,
need
because
to
he
look
even
at
said,
having
yeah, our
one
goal is
hosted
for you
there.
to come in, have a snack or have lunch and stay here and work. You're at your apartment. And
That's really cool. I
Yeah,
like
it does
that.
sound pretty
it's a
cool.
pretty nice place, and the food is really good.
Yeah, and we haven't. I'm embarrassed to say this. We haven't done a Brazilian place yet. We've done plenty of Mexican, Tex-Mex, Peru. We've got a Cuban one on the radar, but be great to do something international, but
I
with
got
a
to talk
Brazilian
to,
influence.
yeah, I'll talk to Dave and Alex.
Yeah. All right, great.
Cool.
Well,
Well,
thank you,
Dave,
gentlemen.
thank you very much again for joining us. And as always, you're listening to Success Paradigms with Emilio Garcia and Mr. Andrew Barker. And
Thanks for
we'll
joining us,
be
everyone.
around here next week.
Yep. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks,
Muchas
guys.
gracias. Ciao, everyone.
See you later.